Hey guys, welcome back to AS Tech HD. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Logitech G502 SE HERO. Now this one specifically is a special color variant, which we'll get to more in just a minute. But right now we're going to talk about, with this mouse even being 2 years old, why it's still such a great mouse today, and why I chose it as my daily driver. Now starting off with the design, you guys will see it's very similar to the previous G502, which for me I have no complaints about simply because I thought that the original one was such a sharp looking mouse. This design has held up so well today, and I think it'll look great with any setup. There are three main key differences when compared to the old G502. The first being that new 16,000 dpi Hero sensor. Now I personally don't think many people are going to be taking advantage of the 16,000 dpi, but when compared to what other companies are putting out now, 16,000 dpi is the new norm. The old G502 had a 12,000 dpi sensor, and I personally don't think it's worth upgrading to the new one unless you really need to take advantage of that 16,000 dpi. The second key difference is a thinner threaded cable. Now the original G502 did have a slightly thicker threaded cable, but it still had some issues with kinking here and there. Now I've had this mouse for about 6 months now, and I've not experienced any issues with the kinking whatsoever. And the way I have my mouse set up is I have a 3M clip set up right above my mouse pad, and then I have the rest of the wire running behind the desk. And so far, I have not experienced any issues with kinking from the clip or from running behind the desk, which is really good. And overall, just having a thinner threaded cable looks much nicer and cleaner on my setup. And the third change is a slight logo change on the actual mouse itself. Now this is not huge, but it's still definitely noticeable, and that's pretty much the RGB you get on the mouse. And all of that can be controlled from the Logitech G5 app, which we'll be taking a look more at in just a second. The mouse itself comes in at 125 grams, and Logitech also includes a box of neatly packaged weights for you to use if needed. And in order to add the weights, all you have to do is flip the mouse over and take off the magnetic clip on the bottom, and from there you'll have access to all the different compartments for the weights. Now the cool thing here is that you can add weights to the top, middle, or bottom of the mouse to really create a custom feel for yourself, which I think is really cool. Now this feature in my opinion is very underrated simply because the feel and hand for a mouse is really important, and it's a key feature people look for when choosing a new mouse. So being able to create that custom feel for yourself I think is really important and really cool. So for me, all I have is just one weight in the back, and I think that works really well for me. Taking a look at the design of the mouse, it comes in at 5.17 inches long, 2.69 inches wide, and 1.62 inches tall. Now, it's not a small mouse by any means, and I have slightly larger than normal hands, and it fits really well in mine. But then again, sizing is also a subjective thing, and it's a personal preference. It's something you really need to try for yourself to see if you really like it. Some people might prefer a slightly smaller mouse, and some people might want a slightly larger one. But I think in general, this size is a happy median, and a lot of people tend to be a fan of it. Now, taking a look at the design, you guys can see it's definitely an angular and sharp design for sure. And it is a few years old at this point, but it's still held up very well. As I said before, this is a special color variant, hence the SE in the name, although the box doesn't really tell you what SE stands for, but really the only difference is the new white trim. So you guys can see it adds a glossy white accent around the edges and a couple of the buttons, which I think looks really cool. The mouse has rubber grips on either side, which I think is a very nice touch, and in total this mouse has 11 programmable buttons, which are in really easy to reach places, and they can all be programmed using the Logitech G5 app. As stated before, the biggest feature about this mouse over the old one is definitely that new Hero sensor. And now with the new sensor, you can now track over white surfaces, while the old one struggled to do so. So if you have a white gaming setup, especially with this new color variant, it won't have any issues tracking over a white mouse pad, which is really good. The last thing to cover is a software, which is Logitech G5. Now G5 has pretty much all the settings you need for changing your RGB, your keybinds, and your DPI. It does support auto profile switching, which for those of you who don't know is when you launch a game, Logitech will automatically detect the game and switch the keybinds for that game, which is really cool. The only issue with this I've noticed is that if you have multiple keybinds for a certain game, it won't switch over at all, which is not too big of an issue because all you have to do is go into G5, select the profile, and head back into the game. I don't want to go too in depth with the software, but overall, it's a very clean and easy to use software, and it's definitely one of the better softwares out there that I've used in my opinion. Lastly, what are my thoughts on this mouse? So for me, it's a nearly perfect gaming mouse, and I use it as my daily driver. It fits really well in my hands, the design is very sharp and angular, and looks very nice with my setup, and it has all the programmable buttons I need for my games. Now, this mouse retails for $80 US, but nowadays you can easily find it for $50 or $60. On Amazon right now at the time of filming, the G502 is $46.99, and the SE is $49.99. I bought my mouse for $34.99 on Black Friday at Best Buy, so I got a pretty good deal on it. But even for the price right now, I still think it's a very good deal. Anyways, guys, that was my review of the G502. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.